Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is David from Daveden Web Dev, and on this channel I like to talk about all things WordPress, especially about accessibility and dynamic data. And today's video is going to be about Elementor version 4. That is one of the hot topics today. So let me know in the comments, do you use Elementor or what's your favorite builder? You can let me know in the comments. If you are new here, please do leave your name and where you're from in the comments, and we'll do our pleasantries. But yeah, while we wait, I just want to say I've been excited this week, or at least this year. There's a lot of things that have been rolling on one after the other. First, we had the build-up with the Elementor's Q2 event. Then we had the talk about the Buildavias. They released their beta version. After that, we had Edge. Edge came along with their public alpha release and the demo and the large session workshop. Followed by, in the same period, we had the Bricks 2.0 alpha, and then we had the Elementor 3.29 beta, which now brought us finally the Elementor version 4 editor in the alpha phase. So those are the things that have been happening in the world of the web design today. And I think today is supposed to be a public holiday, right? May 1st. In some places in the UK, we don't have any public holiday. But yeah, I think in some places we have the holidays. So happy holidays to all of you. But yeah, so let me know which version of Elementor were you most excited about. I put a poll in the comments. There was the time of the sections and columns. Then we had the era with the containers. And then now we are moving to an era with what they call the atomic elements. So which one do you prefer using? I know I still had a few people who I know are still not ready to transition from the sections and columns to the containers. So let me know, are you part of that boat? Have you transitioned from sections and columns to containers? And are you looking forward to transitioning from these containers into the atomic elements? Or what do you think? Do you want it to still remain the way it was? For me, I think I'm excited about version 4 because we've not had this kind of system in a very long time, where we're now being able to get as close to the HTML core as possible. For a while, we've just been stuck with having div upon div upon div, but now we finally have access to get atomic elements, like they call it. That means we can get access to, when we put a H2, we get a H2. If you put a button, we get a button. If you put a link, we get a link. We're not going to be getting a div within a div, then a link, then a span within a span, and such a messy configuration. But yeah. So yeah, that is the introduction. So the first thing I will be doing today is we'll just be going through how exactly do you install Elementor beta version. Because I've seen a lot of people, they keep installing the dev version, not the beta version. And it's because of how Elementor have set it up. They keep giving us that pop-up that says, experience something, get the beta, the developer edition or something like that. So many people are installing the developer edition, which is not the appropriate one to install. But yeah, we'll see how it is. I'll just switch over my screen now and show you how exactly you can get the beta version, and you should use it only on a staging site. Don't go and start using the beta version on your live site, because that's why it is given that tag for a reason. Beta means it's only meant for testing. Alpha means it's for bug report. You shouldn't even go close to your website. It should just be for testing how to give bug reports to the developers. The beta means it's in between, but still you shouldn't put it on your live website until it gets to the stable release. So let's go ahead and see how we can install the beta version of Elementor. So first, if you go to plugins, we'll see that at the moment I'm using Elementor version 3.28.4. So if you want to get the beta version, you head over to Elementor, then to Tools, and finally you head over to Version Control. Then what you do here is just say you want to become a beta tester. Let me zoom in a little bit. So you say you want to become a beta tester, enable that, and then save changes. Then it will ask you to put your email and whatever to get notification. I don't need that, so I'll close it. So once you've saved the changes, let me save it again. Then you may have to wait for a couple of minutes for it to come up, but ideally just go to your dashboard and update. That's the easiest way to get the updates, and it should show up at some point. So sometimes it takes a while, but let me refresh the page. And now that I've refreshed, you can now see the 3.28.4 was the one that was installed, and now you can now update to 3.29.0 beta 1. If I update that, it's updating. So now we are done. So let me go back to WordPress updates to see if there's any other update. And I guess it's just, let's just update again. I guess it's just a caching issue. Okay, so it's updated. Now let's go back and see if there's anything else. Okay, so no other updates. So now we can go over to Elementor and then Settings. And we'll go over to, let's just see what we have on the features. But the main place you're supposed to go to is the Editor V4. You might be tempted to go to, let's just go to the plugins area. So I'll go to plugins and let's say, let me search a repository for beta. You see there is a plugin called Elementor Beta in the repository. So you might be tempted to go for that one, which is Elementor's fault. They actually named it beta, not dev edition. So when they see beta, that's what some people would think this is the one to install, but that's not the one. Which let me actually go to the plugin so you can see it for yourself. Plugins and add plugin. So if you search for Elementor Beta, let's see, I think, yes, you see an edition called Elementor Beta Developer Edition. That is not the one to install. This one is meant for like actual developers of plugins to be able to test future events, like future updates, to make sure that it's compatible with their software before it even gets to the beta release for the public. It's, just think of this version as the alpha release of any plugin. Then we get to the beta release, which is the one that is the public beta, before we get to the final stable version. So don't go ahead and start installing this plugin at all. This is not meant for you to install. But unfortunately, most times when you go to features, which is why a lot of people install it, whenever you go to features and you try to update any of these things, so let's say markup, I activate that and I say save changes. Then I think after like a minute or two, Elementor will bring up one pop-up that will tell us to install the developer edition. Well, let's just keep going. So that aside, now we've gotten this tab that says Editor V4. So to activate the version 4, it is currently still in alpha. See the tag there, alpha. So don't install it on your live site, only on a staging site for testing purposes only, to see how it will work with your workflow and to provide feedback for Elementor. So we'll go ahead and say activate new experience. And yes, I've read, although I didn't read anything, but yes, I've read it. Activate. And yeah, it's welcoming us to the newest version of the editor. So I can now try out the experience. Yep, it's giving us welcome to editor v4. Say hello to a new experience. You are now using editor version 4, a new generation of web creation. You can try out the editor v4 elements such as the div, SVG, and paragraph. You can set up a new class and apply it site-wide for perfect consistency. You can customize any style element per screen size by switching between responsive views. So these are some of the things that have been added. So let's go ahead and say let's go. Okay, so here we are in the editor. The new features you see right off when you open it is that you see these atomic elements, and then it gives you the tag that is still in alpha. Then we get 7 new elements, and these are like the foundational elements for almost any kind of website you want to build, because every website is built up of some foundational blocks that occur across all those sites. Because if you think about it, really, every other widget that you have on the page, say, let's see something more complex, like even the posts widget is just a combination of these 7 widgets. Is a post widget is just a flexbox with whatever element you want, like an image, a heading, and a paragraph, all combined together, and then we just apply some PHP to it to be able to loop through that flexbox. So every widget that we have down here, they are actually just a reflection of those 7 or 8 widgets. I think one widget is missing, which is the video widget. So that's the only missing widget here. But everything is a reflection of these widgets. These widgets are what's now combined together to form any kind of widget that you want. Whether it's table of contents or any other widget, they're all like composed of these atomic elements. That's why they call them atomic elements. And yeah, so that's the first thing you need to know, that we shouldn't be afraid of those elements. That what was happening that before, starting from sections and columns, Elementor were like giving us training wheels. So with the sections and columns, we had, it's kind of like a training wheel with like how we were kids. You had those training wheels on your bikes. Then after a while, they would remove something while your parents would still be like walking with you to push you on the bike until it gets to the point where they will now completely let go and allow you to do whatever you want. So that's how it was. It started with sections and columns. That one, it was a lot of rigidity. It was structured so that everything was done for you. The CSS was applied for you in the background. Display flex, flex direction row, flex direction column, everything was applied for you in the background. You didn't have to do anything. Then they now moved to containers, which was now like slightly more flexible, allowing you to do a few things yourself until you got comfortable with it. Now that you're comfortable with the containers, they're now moving you to the next era, which is now the atomic era. And in this era, is now you are free to do what you want. They will still help you out here and there, but at least now you have your freedom to do exactly what you want. So we'll be looking at how we can like recreate some of those other widgets that were there before into these 7 atomic elements. So that will give you an understanding of how you can now represent your website and not be afraid of it. Hopefully in the future, they will also make some like default classes to help us out to speed up our workflow. But for now, I'll just show you the foundation of how almost all the other widgets are formed from those 7 elements. So let's switch back. If you have any questions, please just let me know in the comments. And if the volume is okay, please let me know, because I'm still using a very low bitrate in terms of my video quality and the audio. I'm not sure if the audio is okay. Please let me know in the comments. But yeah, so we have those elements. So let's say, for example, the first one, which is, because I'm using the free version, that's why we're having this information at the bottom. But let's say for example, we want to get, previously we had this container, and the container, we can now drop in our widgets. So let's say we drop in a heading widget, okay, thank you for confirming. Then we drop in maybe okay, no, I'm using the new widgets. Let's delete this. Let's start with the old widgets first so that we see how everything works. Let me close that. So we have the container widget first. That now has what they call the content width boxed. Then within that widget, we have, let's say, something like, let me look for an example, like a text and a button. So I'll say maybe the heading widget and a button widget. Okay. And let me just get rid of this global colors by Elementor. So I'll go to Elementor, settings, and general, I think. Yeah. Let me disable this default colors and default fonts. And I'll save that. Let me see if there's any other thing. I'll just leave the Google fonts for now. Sometimes I don't use Google fonts a lot. I like to do custom fonts because I feel it's easy, it's more performant. But let's see if there's any other thing I missed. In performance, I think every other thing is okay. Features. It's good to start using this optimized markup already because this will remove one extra div even from your older widgets. So it's good to start using optimized markup. But yeah, I think that's it. And then the version 4. Okay, so let's go back, refresh. Let me publish first. Then I'll refresh. And now all of those default Elementor colors have been removed because we don't really need any of those default colors that come with Elementor. We want to rely on our theme or on our classes. We don't need the default Elementor's colors and everything. So now we have these. Let's see. All we just have to do is just make it centered. So let's go back and I will just go here to the flexbox. This is version 3 I'm still using. So what we do now, we say, okay, we want it to be direction row, which is, or column, I mean. And we want, because it's going in the column direction, if we want to align it in this direction, so this is the what do you call it? The default direction is now downward. So if we want to align it like left to right, that means it's opposite to what I am, the direction I had set. Whenever it is opposite to the direction I've set that I want to like move the elements, then that is called the alignment. If it is in the same row as I'm trying to like adjust the elements, that is called justify. The good thing is that Elementor has already set it up so that the directions change as we change the arrow. These things change to make you easily understand. But that's the idea. Whenever it's going downward, then the opposite, like the opposite side is called alignment. So don't do align. Then I'll make it centered. And what else? Let's close this. And okay. I think that is the main thing. So let me just add the HTML there. Let's copy the whatever they wrote. Copy. And paste it. I'm not really doing much styling today. It's just more of direct, just to explain how everything works. So the next one is called sign up for privacy. Okay, and we just get the colors. Let me see, okay, there's no hover color, so I can just get the color. Okay, so the color will be under the style tab, and I'll drop, I don't have it. Okay, yeah, we still have global colors. So I can now make this, oh no, I need the white. So this will be white first. And the other one, so let's just start naming the colors. This is what we had in version 3. So we can name our colors so that we can reuse them later. So this will be called maybe, oh, I keep pressing some buttons that I don't need to press. This will be maybe neutral, light. However you like to name your colors. So what I'll do is I'll now make that the primary color. So let's just go there, go to settings, and change the primary color to the other color we had. This will now be the new primary color. Let's see, is there any other color they used here? No, just this is the primary color and the black. That's all. Maybe I'll just say the black is the secondary color. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Okay, so that's primary and secondary. Save it and close. So for this one now, let me give it the primary color. So we're getting similar to what they had. Then they had a border radius. So I'll go to the border type. Not necessary. All we need is the radius. So on the radius, let me just use pixels and say 50 pixels. No, too much. 20, no, maybe 8 pixels. Okay. So then I think for the heading, I'll give it a H1. And so let's just say this is what we have for now, just as an example. And we go to the front end. So you see it goes in this boxed area automatically. In fact, let's just do that. So we have this boxed area automatically. We have our text and the button at the bottom. So that is how we do it on a normal day. But then now with the version 4 elements, it's slightly different, because if you inspect this element, you would notice some things that Elementor are doing. Like I said, a training wheel. You will see that if you can inspect it yourself, you can just see this is where the container starts from. So it has a div with econ boxed. Then it has an inner div called econ inner. So without showing it to you in the editor, they actually add a second div inside to now give it that constrained width. But now with the new elements, you have to do it yourself. So first, you start add, then I'll come to my atomic elements. I'll start with the first one, flexbox. So that's the first element that goes to the edge, from edge to edge. Then I now have to get a second element for my boxed container. So this is now the main container, which is, I'll call it, so you can understand. So this will be the parent. Why do I keep pressing that button? Parent. And then this will be the child container. Then within this child container, we'll now add our widgets, so our heading and our button widget. So button. So the ones with this atomic sign, those are the ones that are the version 4 elements. So the button. So we're getting there. But you notice that the difference is, if I publish this and go on the front end, let's close this. You see, everything is to the edge of the screen. Yes, yeah, we'll take a look at the code as soon as possible. So now you see, at the moment, it is going to the edge of the screen, whereas the main one was in the center and box. So how do we get this to go, that is the new version 4, to look like the old version 3? So the first thing we need to do is, this is where we now have to use the second experiment, which is classes. Okay, let me answer that question before we continue. So it's asking about the new containers or the new elements having widget containers. No. So that's why they are called atomic elements. Now they've stripped out everything. So there are no longer any divs that are not needed. So if you put in a heading widget, it will just return only a heading, a H2. It doesn't return any div, any Elementor widget container, or any of those class names. It's just exactly as you put it in is what you're getting out. So that's the difference. Previously, they were adding wrapper divs, but now there's no wrapper divs. There's no inner child divs. It's just exactly the element you put in is what you put out, you get out. So yeah, let's continue. So how do we now get our new version 4 to look like our old version 3. So the first thing you need to do is, this is where you have, like I said, you have classes. Those classes now will be like something that you use when you don't want to be using the same style over and over again. Usually, for all of your containers, they all tend to have the same style. For example, let's go to this example. You see, oh, this is not a good example. Let's look for somebody's example, like let's say Elementor.com. So you see, they have two styles. They have the style for the heading, which goes edge to edge. That's for the header section. Then if you look at the body section, it all stays within this box content area. This is the main area. Sometimes they have some padding, sometimes they don't, but this is the main box content area that it goes down to the bottom. So it's the same size. So now how do we get that? Since it's going to be a repeating style that is the same size for every section, what we can now do is we'll come to our container. So first we'll start with the parent container. We'll give it a class name. So I'll say style, and I'll just give it a class name because I want to be reusing that style multiple times. For this one, I'll just call it maybe parent. You can call it whatever you like, either parent or section or one of those names that are easy to remember. So I'll call that parent. And on the parent, there are multiple ways to get what you want. And I think maybe the best way is I'll add a padding to this parent container. So you go under, the way it is now structured, everything that you have to do to style the element is under the style tab. Anything you want to do to change the HTML is under the general tab. And you'll notice that that's why the class name and everything is under the style tab, because class names are used for styling purposes. That's the main job that they're used for. So that's why you add the class name and then you style, and everything is under the style tab. If you want to change the HTML content, whatever is in the HTML is not affected by your class name. So anything under the general does not get affected by class names. It's only things that are in the style tab. So when you go to the style tab, there are two options. There is the local style. That is when you want to only affect the current element. But in this case, I want to create a container that works across multiple sections. So for that, I will now use the global style. That one has a different color, which is green. And whenever you highlight it, the color comes up. The other one becomes grayed out. That means it is disabled, sort of. So for this one, I want to add some padding. But before I do that, I will now go to the inner container as the child. I'll also give it a class name. I'll call this one child. Just so you remember. So whenever we have it, we always have this pattern of parent and child. Parent and child. So for the child, we now restrict the width, because right now it's going edge to edge. Let me get rid of the... So what you see if I highlight it, you see that it's going from edge to edge. It's getting to the edge. So what we want to do now, we want to restrict the width to be able to just stick to this inner container width, which we set at, let's see the old one. The width was set at 1140 pixels. So we'll come to our inner container for our new v4. We'll go to the style tab. Then we'll go to the size and we'll set it at width, change it to percentage. This is where some things I think Elementor should make some changes, because people will not remember to be clicking all of these units. So I think the best thing for Elementor to do is try to make it content aware. So like typography, make it rems by default for the width, make it percentage by default. For max width, you can leave it at maybe pixels or something. Although some people would like to use like clamp functions and all of those things, but just make it so that it's intuitive for the users to know exactly what they want to use, because sometimes they now make that mistake of putting in pixel values where they shouldn't put it and sort of things like that. So we'll start with the width. We want the width to be 100%. But then we want it to not go past 1140 pixels. So we change the max width to pixels, and then we say 1140. We are still getting there. We are not there yet. So once we do this, it is now getting the width that we need, but it's not yet reflecting. For it to reflect, we need to now center it. So there are two ways to center this element. That's one thing about like styling and CSS, is that there is never only one way to do something. There is always multiple ways. So it all depends on how your layout normally works. But generally, the way we work with it is we now come under the spacing, and then we set the right margin. This is right margin, the right side and the left side. You change it from pixels to auto. Right? You go to the next. Okay, sorry, you have to remove this, unlink it first. And that's another thing I noticed with Elementor. Right now, I think I don't really like this way that it works. That let's say everything is linked and I put 20 pixels and I just want to unlink it so that I can just change one part. The moment I unlink it, oh, okay, it worked. The last time I did that, it just removed everything. I guess maybe the first time or something. I don't know. But yeah. So, okay, that means it works. So let's just delete all of these. So let me link it. Delete that. Then I will unlink it. And first, for the right, I'll say auto. For the left, I'll also say auto. And let's see what that gives us. So let me publish this. And I'll preview on the front end. And nothing changes. Oh, wow. Let's see. So what was the problem? Let's inspect it. So, okay. 10 pixels, display flex, row, margin left, auto. I see. So that's where some problems start to happen, because Elementor's styling for version 3 is affecting version 4. So is why it is still not doing exactly. So we have to down style everything ourselves. So let me go to the parent. So we'll start from the parent. I'll give it display flex direction, let me say column or row. Then we'll go to the size. We'll say width 100% and max width 100% as well. That's for the parent container. Then for the child container, it should now be layout. So start with size. Oh, see, that's where the problem that somebody mentioned. That's another problem that somebody mentioned that I think it was Paul mentioned. The moment you click away and click back, it takes you back to the local styling. So you would always mistakenly style the local style instead of styling the global class. So it should be, I hope Elementor can make it to be like content aware, such that if I've clicked to start styling a global class and I click away and I click back, it should continue styling that global class, not the local class, because now I've mistakenly added class styles to my local class, which is this container. Where is it? I keep style all of them. I just keep. That's this one, right? I styled one of them on the local class instead of the global class. And yeah, it's okay. So let's create one, and then you see why it's useful. So let me quickly create again. I'll start from scratch. So let's just give this one a padding so I know what is going on. I'll just do a few seconds. Let me change something. Let me plugin repository, and then core framework. And what I'm doing now is not necessary, but I just that's how I'm used to working. So I think it is, let's use something like copy, publish. So just give me 1 minute to because I installed a brand new version, so it doesn't have so many things that I normally use. And I'll just say empty, don't need this. I don't need any of these. Finish. Manage project, no. Preference, no. Manage project. Okay, so then refresh. So yeah, some things are changing. Okay. Yeah. So the way let me try it again with the new one. Something, we go back, zoom out. Okay, yes. So now it's getting back to normal. So first I'll start with adding a new container. So no, sorry, this is the new version. So plus icon first, then I'll add a flexbox. Then I'll go ahead and add in a new child container, which is what I said to Elementor, that instead of having to do this thing manually every time, I wish Elementor will make this automatic. So I've added the parent container, which is the first one, flexbox. Then I've added a new, either the flex or div, it doesn't matter. So first we start with the flexbox. This is the parent, just so you can see it visually. Then the div block is the child. Then we'll add in the heading element and the button element. So button, and that's it. So let's come back, and now I will start styling them. So first I will I'll start from the parent and then I'll go downward. So I'll start with the parent container. First, I'll change the HTML tag to section, because usually parent containers are like sections. And then I'll go to the style tab, and then I'll give it a class name called parent. In that parent container, what I want is, I want it to have the flex direction to be row and everything to just be center. So justify content center, align items center. That's for the first one. Then for the inner container, which is the child, I will now give it the same thing, class name of child. And for this one, I now want to restrict the width to be 1140 pixels. So I'll come to the size. So size is for width and height. So anything that is making it bigger or smaller, that's why it's called size. Then anything that adds some kind of padding or margin is called spacing. So for the size, first I'll change the pixel to percentage and say 100%. Then I'll change the max width to pixels and I'll say 1140. And you see immediately it now lines up properly to the initial element. Then the next thing you do is you now give it you now give it under spacing, you'd say right margin auto, on link, right margin auto, left margin auto. So this is basically what Elementor does for you before. Whenever you add a new container, this is exactly the way Elementor creates the container. It creates it as econ boxed, then econ inner inside, and gives it all of this styling that I just did. That's what Elementor does for you. But now we have to create the style ourselves the first time. So now that we've created the style the first time, all we have to just do is that anytime we want to use it, just apply the class names again. So the last thing we have to do is add some spacing, because there's a space between the heading and the text and the button. So I'll come to the inner child. Then I'll go to spacing and to layout, and then I'll change it to flex direction column. I know it's a long thing. And then justify content start. Align item start. And the gap. Those are the 4 things that normally we add. So the gap, row gap, 20 pixels. So it's now going back to how we have the 4. Then finally, the button. We come to the button, and then we give it a class name too of maybe primary button. So whenever you have things that you use multiple times, like your button, you have like buttons in like 10 different places on your website. So instead of having to copy the style from one button and paste it in the other one, you just create a class name. Once you've created that class name, the moment you use the button once, it's going to apply multiple times. So this button now, I've added a class name. I'll go to the general tab. I'm still getting my mind in the version 3 version. I'll go to typography. So anything that has to do with the text, so like text color, text size, text, the line height, and everything that has to do with the text is under typography. Anything that has to do with things like the background color, the background image, anything is under background. So they're now breaking it down for you in easy forms. So let's say under typography, I want to change the text color to white. This is the only limitation we have, just like a little bit. Well, yeah, Elementor version 4 is looking nice now. It's getting better, so I'm happy. But yeah, so we have this color. The only limitation we have now is that the global colors and the global variables are missing at the moment. But before the final release, all those things will be added back. So for now, we have to add a fixed color for our text and our background. So I'll go to the background, and then I'll do the same thing. I'll add a background color, which was, let's just copy one of these colors. I think it's this one. Copy, and then I'll just put it back. Okay. So now we have gotten it the way we want. We can now reuse this whole thing again. So let me just finish it and show you something. So this is now like our base layout. So whenever we want to have this layout again, maybe in the future, you can just come over again and start. So I'll just start with a container. So flex. Then I'll add a div block. I'll add inside the div block, I'll add a heading and a button. And all I have to do now is just, instead of having to right click, copy style, copy, then come here and paste style, that is long work. Now all I have to just do is come to each of the elements. So I'll start with the flex box. Oh, I just unintentionally put it as a child element instead of a parent element. Let's delete this. Okay, I've deselected everything. I'll start again. That's one problem with, okay, let me not say it's a problem, but I wish Elementor had the way to just copy out of a parent container. You can't really copy out of a parent container. You can only move it within the parent container, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, I'll add flexbox, then a div, then a heading, and finally a button. And just, did it go, it went again into the parent. Why is it doing that to me? I don't want you to be in the parent container. Exit, escape. Okay, I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way. So I'll click on the flexbox and drop it in the insertion area. That is better. Then I'll click on the div, then a heading and a button. And now I'll come to the parent. I'll just give it the class name of parent. I'll come to the block, give it the class name of child. And just see how everything is now going back to the same style that I want. I'll come to the button and give it the class name of primary button, and everything is applied. So let's say you have another section somewhere down the page and you want to give it the same style, you do the same thing. And let's say for whatever reason, 1 month down the line, the person I built the website for comes and tells me that, oh, I'm tired of looking at the blue color on all my buttons on the page. I want all my primary buttons to be maybe blue, but all my secondary buttons to be black. Something like, oh, let's say all my primary buttons to be red and my secondary buttons to be black on the entire page. And you have built a website with, say, 7 pages. Will you have to now start going back to all of those 7 pages to change the button colors to make sure that the button is using the primary color of red? Or the second, all you have to just do now, just watch how fast it is. First, let me create a secondary button. So I'll just come to this button. Let's finish styling the button. I didn't finish it. So on the button, I'll give it a border radius of, let's say, 8 pixels. And I will also give it, one other thing I didn't mention is you can add what they call, states as well. So to add a state, which is what I mean by state is just hover color, your active color and all of that. If you want to add a state to a class, you click on the 3 dots and you say, I want to add a hover color. So let's say on hover, I want the background to get darker. So I'll go to background and I want it to be, oh no, let's copy this color again. And let me look for a darker version. Copy. So yes, that's the color I want on hover. So now, whenever I hover over every of the buttons, so you see, I styled it only one place, but automatically it's styled everywhere. Now, I will now do the second thing. I will now duplicate this button and create a secondary button. So this is duplicated button. And now, let's say I want to add maybe secondary button. I may have to remove let me just remove the primary button so that you can have 2 classes at the same time. But let me just say secondary button is also fixed on its own. So for the second button, let's say I want the background color to be something like, let's say the black, okay? And typography to be something like white, and the border radius to be something extraordinary, like let's say 100 pixels. So it is more of a pill shape. So now this is my primary button and that's my secondary button. For the secondary button, I want to have a hover color. So I'll click on the 3 dots and choose hover. And then I'll give it a hover color of, let's say it switches to white and the text color switches to black, something like that. So yeah. So we have these 2 buttons. So now wherever I want to use a secondary button on the page, all I have to do is just add a button element. So let's say in a new section, drop in a new container. Let's say in this new section, I want to add a secondary button. All I do is drop a button widget. It's kind of like having presets. That's what it is. So you add a button widget. Is that the right button? No. A button widget. And now, whenever I want to style the button, all I have to just do is choose the class name that I chose. So I can either say primary button, it changes to the primary one, or I'll say I want, let's remove this, secondary button, and it changes to the secondary button. And it could be on, the page could be like on the page 7 of your web, maybe your contacts page, and you want the button to reflect everywhere. All you have to do now is yeah, the whole point is that you don't need to work on your existing sites. Just use it in your future sites. That's what you're going to do now. Use this in your future sites so that it is now, it looks like it makes life harder, but it's actually making life easier, because now all you have to do is whenever you want to create a new button or you want to change the style, all you have to do is just apply the style on the class and it will apply everywhere. But if you're not comfortable using classes, it's fine with you. You don't need to create classes. This is just to speed up your workflow. You could literally do the same workflow like previously. So let's say I drop in one of these containers, and all you have to do is drop in a button, let's say a button widget, and you now have to start styling this button from scratch the way you normally style it. So you could do that if you want, but that is all up to you. Let me change something. I shouldn't have given this thing a, where is it? Flex direction row column. No, I don't need this. Don't need that. And on the parent, all I have to do is go to the layout, flex box this way, and where is it? Wrap item wrap, something like that. I think, yeah. So it all depends on how you want to work, and you just change everything. Yeah. So to nest CSS, no, you can't nest CSS in Elementor for now, because there is no custom CSS yet. But yeah, now let's go ahead and check out the front end. I should have added a, let's change this one to a, let me delete this, and let's go ahead and preview on the front end. So let's see this first one. You see the difference in how everything was structured. So I'll paste that and give it a H1, publish, refresh. So we get something slightly similar. Oh no. Let's say I want to get the exact same layout like this. So what I need to do now is this first class name I created, that is something that I want on every section, but I don't want every of my sections to be centered. I want only this container to be centered. So what I'll now do is I'll now style the local class. This global class, think of it like your site settings, where you normally add site settings. So that is when you want something that is repeated multiple times, but in this case, it's not going to be repeated. It's only going to be in the hero section. So on this one, I'll put the local class, and I'll just say I want it to be, that is the child element, no, the heading on the local class. I want it to be centered. So I'll say, oh no, I can just do it on the child element, local class, go to typography, and say text alignment centered, and layout, no, layout, it should be down, and then this and this. Yes. So that's it. Similar to the other one. So we have something similar. Publish, refresh. So I'll do it again from scratch just so that you will see it, but this is how it is. So now, if you now look at the inspect, you notice the big difference. So inspect it. You see that with the initial version of the old version, watch what it had, and that's because I applied optimized markup. Now watch what happens. We have a div first with the class of econ box. Then we have a div with the class of econ inner. Then we have a div with a class of Elementor element before we have the H1. Same thing with the other one. We have a div before we have the A tag. And then even inside the A tag, we now have a span tag with another span tag. Like, literally, what do we need these two span tags for? Compare that with the new one. Inspect. All we have is a section, then a div, and then head H1, button, oh, let me delete one of the buttons, but H1 and button. Finish. So that is 1, 2, 3, and 4 elements. Whereas with the previous version, which is version 3, we had, first we start with div, div, div. That's 3 divs before the H1. Then another 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. So that's 8 in total. Because I even chose optimized markup, because that's still a beta version experiment. Yeah. So I wonder how this will work with widgets which are like functionality like the slides. So I think that's the point that first, these are called the atomic elements. These ones will be like they will be more like elements that are the basic building blocks, but then they will still have those what I will refer to as components, which are basically elements that have like styles and JavaScript already composed in them, like accordions, tabs, and all of those. So those ones will still be separate, but these first 7 or 8 that I think they should be like 8 or 9, because we still have to add the video element and some other elements like that. Those ones will now be like the core blocks that we can use to create any kind of components that we want. But for things like accordions, tabs, menu widgets, for those ones, I think they might not change it too much, or they will like, because those ones are like pre-composed elements. They're not atomic elements, basically. So for those ones, it will be different. But yeah, then it says that there should be an option to change the colors of these class buttons. So yeah, that is the whole idea. It's almost like any other builder, like Bricks or Breakdance or all of those ones, that now you would now be the one to create your classes. You are creating it directly as you are building the button. Before, you had to go to your global, like your site settings, and that is where you style all of these buttons. But now you can style your button the way you want it, or give it a class name. So if style everything, give it a class name, then whenever you want to now use that kind of style of button, all you have to just do is just remember that class name and type it in, and that's it. The button will take on that style. If you want to have another type of button, maybe one type of button for your homepage, the other type of button for maybe your call to action within your blog posts and everything, so you now style a second button class, and that's what you'll be reusing for your secondary button. Because like right now we are limited. Elementor only gives you, with the version 3, you can only style one style of button. But now with this version 4, with the classes, you can style 2 or 3 different types of buttons, and you know that, okay, this is your primary button, your secondary button, your accent button or something like that, and you can reuse them whenever you want. And you can now mix and match styles. So I believe Jeffrey is already working on something where he will teach you how to create utility classes and things like that. But for now, the only thing I would say that there are still some limitations, because okay. Oh yeah, sorry, I missed your question. Sorry, I mistook it. Yeah, I think, what colors will you prefer? I think you can always change the colors using some CSS, because every of these colors, that the way they do it with all of these builders is that they use CSS variables. So you can just target that CSS variable in your child theme and then change the color yourself. But I don't think Elementor will want to give you an option to change those colors. Thank you very much. Thank you. But yeah, this is the way we should now start thinking of working with our Elementor. It may look hard in the beginning, but then as you keep using it, then it starts becoming easier. I already like mentioned it to I think Nicholas during Reno's stream, that rather than having us to add our parent, when you saw me when I was trying to create that simple section, I had to add a parent container, then I added a child container just to make it a box width. I wish Elementor will now give us another like element called a parent element or a section element, something like that. Something that when we just add that element, it will automatically, like they do in Bricks, where to add the section and then the inner container, and then give them adequate class names that we can change when we want. Because let me show you an example of what I mean. So let's say let me look for another builder that I work with. I know this is Elementor stream, but let's just choose this builder. And I'll go to pages, and let me go to the home page. Or let's just go to one of these pages. No. Okay, let's go to roadmap. I don't know what I've done there. Oh no, this is bricks. Sorry. Oh yeah, I can still use bricks. And I think I also have, let's see. Come in, let me see. Post plugin activate. Yeah, okay, let me activate build areas as well. And I'll refresh the page. I have like 3 different builders all running on this demo website because I'm testing out 3 different builders. So I have build areas, bricks, green shift, all on this website. I just want to show you their similarities. So let's go ahead and create a new page. I want to create a page. And let's see. So let's say with bricks, you see how they have this element called the section element. The moment I click on it to add it, it adds a section and a container. That's the same thing as saying the parent and the child, which I did in Elementor. So that's parent and child. I wish Elementor will also have a kind of element like that. Oh yeah, no, I think they've tried. They said it's similar to how we've had sections and columns. Those things are still working even till date, and it's been over 5 years, right? And we had sections and columns, but they are still working. So I think they wouldn't really deprecate those things yet. They just wouldn't add new features to them. So they would just freeze the code for those old ones. But yeah, if whenever you have the opportunity, it would be good to like update any site that you are like maintaining. You can, I think they'll probably create like a convert button the way we had convert from sections and columns to containers. They might have like a convert button to be able to convert from version 3 elements to version 4 elements and things like that. Hopefully they will have that. But yeah. So, like I was saying, if you see, with this one I had, in my own Elementor version, I had to put flexbox and a div block manually. I had to put them manually. But in other builders, like this one, they come automatically. If you have another builder like build areas, let's just create that. It's similar as well. So I'll just add on the main tag, I'll add a section element. If I click on it, it also adds a section and a container. And what I was saying with Elementor, that I hope they will be able to do that class-aware system. So let's go to the style tab of this other builder called build areas. And let's say I add a class name called test2. Okay. If I deselect it and I come back to that div, you see that select 2 is still selected. So that's what, same thing with bricks. If I add a class name of test 2, 3, 4, if I go out and I come back, oh, okay, bricks doesn't do that. I thought it did. But yeah, but that's what I was hoping that Elementor would do. That when you go out and you come back, it should still be highlighted as that button, so that you don't go ahead and start mistakenly styling maybe the container class or styling the local class or anything. But I want to be styling whatever I was styling before. Let that thing still be active. Yeah. So that's why I mentioned that it should be only for new websites. For the older websites, you just leave it first, and then you can tell them. I think usually some people do allow it after like 6 months or so. You can give them that. I know a few of the clients I work with, they don't really want to change anything, but I think there are 1 or 2 that I've met in my time where after 6 months you can now go back to them and say it's time for an overhaul. That you now give them examples of like Apple website or some other website that after you notice that after 6 months there is a rebranding of the entire website. So you can give them that idea that just try to make it in a nice way. So many of them will not agree, but the ones that do agree, you can now rebuild the website and you charge them for basically for rebuilding the website, and then just make it a fresh look. Use the latest features that you know of. Hopefully by that time we'll have like CSS frameworks. I believe like Imran and Jeffrey, they'll be working on CSS frameworks. So the moment we get the class system to work perfectly, I'm sure they'll be working on some CSS frameworks that you can start using with Elementor and so on. Yeah. So by that time, you'll have gotten new tools. You'll be able to remove some old plugins that you don't need anymore. Because I remember I used to use way before back. I used to use this, what they call it, Dynamic U had this feature called Unwrap. I used to use that Unwrap to remove wrapper divs, but now we don't need to do that anymore because with the version 4, there are no more wrapper divs, only in the version 3 elements. The version 4 elements has completely gotten rid of wrapper divs, and there are some, I don't know, there are some features that you may not know. Let me show you some features that come with this version 4 elements that were not there in the previous one. So let's delete this secondary button. And let me say for this container, I want it to have a spacing. So two things that I'll show now that were not there previously is, let's say I want to add for my regular elements, I want to add top and bottom margins or paddings first. Let me add a top and bottom padding of, let's say, let me unlink it. Let's say top padding. I'm just going to be using lots of pixels here. Normally I use a CSS framework, but there's no ability to add custom unit yet. So that's why I'll be using pixels. So say, let's say top is 200 pixels or 100 pixels, and bottom is 100 pixels. Then let's say I duplicate this section. Let's duplicate it. And this time for the new one, let me say this is my section 2. And I'll give it a background color just so that we see what is going on. I'll say background color is yeah, and this is one thing that we didn't have in the previous one. Previously with Elementor's version 3, because the container and the inner container are all one element, you couldn't add a background color just to the inner container. You had to add it to the parent container, or you'd have to add a second div there. You have to add another div block, and before you can get, so you now end up with about 3 or 4 div blocks just to be able to get an inner background. But now with this one, we only have 2 divs, and we are still getting the inner background that we need. So let's say for these elements now, I want the top and bottom padding, or I just want only the bottom padding for this section to be different from all of my other sections. So let's say every section I create should have this big top and bottom padding. But for just this section, I just want to change only the top padding. Now I can just come to my inner container, style tab, and I'll go to the local, go to spacing, and I'll say I want the top padding to be, maybe in this case, 50 pixels. No, it is linked. I always need to remember. Unlink it, and then 50 pixels. And I'm on the margin instead of padding. Oh, why am I not doing a good job today? So top padding, fixed 50 pixels for the top padding. So notice what happens. I was only changing the top padding. I did not change right, left, and bottom. All of those ones remain at their default. So that's one new thing that has been added to version 4. If you go to version 3, this is version 3, and I go to advanced tab, if I just want to only change the top padding, if I unlink it, everything turns to 0. There's no way to have nothing. They must all have a value. So you couldn't just change one value without affecting all the other values. But now with version 4, you can say all of your sections should have a big top and bottom space, but just for one section, you want it to have only the top space smaller. So you just affect only that top space. Style tab, local, spacing, only the top padding changed. The right, left, bottom, they are taking the inherited style from the global class. So that's the difference that we're having now compared to previously. So yeah, those are the main things. And then the other thing that Elementor is adding is what I'm calling collision detection for links. So with your link, okay, yeah, thank you for joining in, Jimmy. We'll speak soon. So yeah, for links, if you go to the parent container and let's say you mistakenly added a link to that parent container. So let's say I added my link to my website. And for whatever reason, so now the entire container is linked. And for whatever reason, I forget and I come to the inner button and I try to add a link, it will give you this warning that to add a link to this element, first remove the link from its parent container. So it's giving you like, it knows that the moment you add a link inside of a link, it will break the layout. And I know there have been so many complaints over the years where people say, oh, my layout is broken. I don't know why my layout is broken. And then you check and all you see is that they added a link to the container and then a link inside the button, which is a child element. But now Elementor have done this whereby they've prevented you from adding links to like child containers when the parent has a link already. Hi Sandra's peeps, thanks for joining in. So let me know in the comments. Okay, I can see everybody is either version 4 or other. I guess the other is for people who are not Elementor users. But yeah, so you see, that is one thing about the link. So now the link is broken. You can't use it. Although I would wish Elementor also had that collision to also detect buttons, because ideally you shouldn't even have a button inside of a link. You shouldn't have. So that should also be, I think maybe for a future version of Elementor, that you can also do a detection so that you're not even supposed to allow a button at all inside of a link. They should not be there. It will work, but the HTML standard says you should not nest focusable elements. So don't nest a link or a button inside of another link or another button. But yeah, so that is the other thing that Elementor added. Let's see, what else did they add that I'm missing? So the things that's in future that Elementor are going to add, hopefully, are one is global variables, so that we can get back our global colors, because right now we don't have access to this global typography. We don't have access to global colors in the new version for now, but I think by the time the final version is released, we'll have access to a different version, but it will still be a global color and then a global typography. So yeah. So that's basically it for Elementor. That's what we have been using. The version 4. This is the few things that have been added in version 4. One thing that I missed, which I'll leave a link to in the description, is a video I saw by Catherine recently. Let me leave a link to it in the description so you can check it out, for cloud templates. Global coffee, yeah, we should have that. So yeah, so that's cloud templates. I'll leave a link to Catherine's video. Let me pull it up so you can see it. She talks about how in the new version you now have access to cloud templates. So check out that video. And what it essentially just means is, let's go back. You can now like save your entire container, right click, and you see this thing called save as a template, the new version. So when you click on it, it will ask you, do you want to save it in your local site or do you want to save it on the cloud? For the cloud, you need to have an Elementor account, but on this website, there's no Elementor account linked, so I can't do that. But basically, you can now save your template. I believe she mentioned there is a limitation, but the limitation is a very massive limit. I don't think anybody will reach that limit, but you can now save lots of your templates in the cloud so that you can now reuse those templates on multiple websites. So you can basically create a library of patterns and use them on most of your websites. So yeah. Hello, Brendan. Thank you for joining in. And yeah, I think we'll be jumping off soon if there's no other questions. Basically, this is just all that I wanted to show for Elementor. And if you are a user of Crocoblock, I don't know if you've noticed, they have this JetThemeCore for Elementor users. Yeah, I think for the Elementor, I think theirs is free for now. I don't know if they will make it a pro plan, but I think it's as long as you are on the Elementor Pro, you have access to the templates, your cloud templates, and you have about, I think, a limit of 5,000 or something. So you can add about 5,000 templates in the cloud. But yeah, we never know. They might add some, they might do like Apple and say to upgrade your template storage, you have to pay some amount. But yeah, if you have the Crocoblock suite, you get access to this JetThemeCore, and they have one new nice. It looks very nice. You can easily create your theme parts, your templates in JetThemeCore without having Elementor Pro. So if you have JetEngine and the Crocoblock suite, you really don't need Elementor Pro. You can build your entire website using just Elementor Free and a combination of Jet Theme Builder, JetEngine, and those two are the only things you need. And then maybe let me see. Yeah, I think those are the only two plugins you really need. You can also add it with like Jet Elements, just to add things like your some other social links and some other things. But to build a functional website, all you need is JetEngine, JetThemeCore, and Elementor, and your theme. So maybe cover theme or the Hello theme or the Hello Bees theme, something like that, and you'll be able to build your fully designed website using just those plugins. I think I'll do a video showing just how to use all of this. It's in a nice structured way that you can see how the templates are linked. So it starts with the entire site, then it branches out to either your front page, which is your home page if you've set it up properly, or your 404 page. Then the hierarchy, the next one goes to the archive templates, which goes down to the all archives and all of that. So it basically shows you how the hierarchy is broken down for archives, for pages, and for posts, I think. Yeah, I think posts are also part of pages. Yeah. So it shows you how all of the templates are interlinked. Okay, yeah, so it goes from the archive to the single post. And so that's how the priority goes and so on. But yeah, that is just all about it. And if we don't have any further questions, we'll be jumping off now. So I want to say thank you all for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. If you have any questions or if you want me to go through anything more in depth, let me know in the comments, or you can leave me an email. I'll go through your email and we'll get back to you at some point. So thanks for watching, and we'll be seeing you in the next video. So bye.